Welcome. In this second video of the series, as part of society and social change, I shall look at these three issues. I will deal with others in a later video. First issue, attitudes towards failure and the Second World War. The culture has a strong central core which sees things as either being right and proper or else totally wrong. To lose is improper and hence is both unacceptable and bad. For an individual to lose at anything is regarded as shameful, a disgrace, and if serious, it might have to be atoned for in order to fulfill social obligations. In the Second World War, the dropping of atom bombs on Japan, as well as the ultimate defeat, had a major impact on people. In Japan, the war is referred to as the Pacific War, which is the phrase you should use if the war is ever mentioned. This is rather a touchy subject, and you should not raise it yourself, as it would seem rather thoughtless. Second issue. Youth versus age, the generation gap. A generation gap has begun to open up as younger Japanese start to challenge conventional attitudes. Although there is still widespread veneration of the elderly. But perhaps some may seem a little easier to venerate than others. What are the youngsters coming to? A popular topic of conversation among Japanese adults is the behaviour of young people today, particularly their questioning of traditional values, such as group loyalty and conformity, as well as the willingness of youth to be different and ignore some normal cultural attitudes. In the past, Japanese young people have been subject to rigid expectations about their behaviour, and they are still under constant pressure to conform, although young people are now less likely to obey automatically, and teenagers often have suspicion of, and lack of trust in, adults. Research indicates that by international standards, they have a lot of self-doubt and are often unhappy about themselves. The feelings of confusion and vulnerability, common among teenagers generally, seem to be higher in Japan. Conformity appears in school uniforms. Groups of identically dressed children are seen everywhere. Although many older children personalise their uniform as much as they can get away with, for example by altering the width of trousers or the length of skirt. In Japan, group-oriented behaviour is the norm. Conformity is the thing. Wearing the correct kind of clothes for the task in hand helps with group bonding, as individuals then fit in without causing any anxiety. It is not seen as desirable to be the odd man out. Even when touring abroad, there is a tendency to dress in similar fashion. Here you can see a group offering prayers at a Pacific War memorial. Again, you will observe that they are similarly dressed. Students who are sent abroad to study often change and on their return are a little different from others, the result of their experiences and exposure to different ways. Back in Japan, they may not fit in well, and some might even be bullied for being different from the group. While abroad, some Japanese youngsters may choose to engage in extreme forms of dress, or do things like having strange haircuts or dyeing their hair. They seem to feel that this may be their main chance to be different and express rebellious attitudes in a typical teenager kind of way. This said, even within Japan, some young people in the larger cities are now behaving in ways considered both extreme and somewhat offensive by their elders. In major cities, you can expect to see youth with bleached hair, coloured hair, or curly hair, and they may also be wearing lurid clothing, the young women in particular. Teenagers, especially the girls, spend a lot on fashion, and they seem to set the trends, rather than the designers or advertisers doing so. Insistence on a particular brand seems to be less common among teenagers than, say, in the United Kingdom, as street choice rather than advertising seems powerful. Japanese youth do still feel the need to conform, but increasingly it is with their peer group rather than with parental expectations. Mind you, even in 19th century Japan, young women liked to dress fashionably. Dressing in traditional fashion is more a case of dressing up, perhaps when on holiday and for a photograph. As part of the generation gap, a small but increasing number of younger Japanese are beginning to act independently and turn their back on the group. It is possible to meet single Japanese males cycling around countries like Australia, rather than going abroad in groups on organised tours, as previously was the case. In the past, such teams of tourists following a leader holding up a flag or umbrella were a common sight in Japan, then later in nearby countries, and finally around the world. Many older people have worries, such as the changes in youth, the rise of selfish individualism in society, and the general challenge to traditional values. Some of the elderly believe that many teenagers are rejecting an essential part of what is seen as being Japanese. For example, the young no longer bow on the street when meeting someone they know. At least some of the elderly deplore this lack of tradition. However, traditional Japan had its share of interesting and different behaviour. This 18th century print shows a young male entertainer, the one in the middle, with an elderly male lover on the left. The young man is covering the eyes of the male lover as the youngster steals a kiss from a female servant on the right. Now here's an 18th century painting of three drunken women. And now a sexy picture from 19th century Japan. It does not look sexy to you. Well, back then, those ankles were considered to be both lewd and exciting to the average male, and quite a turn-on. Times change. But if you did find it exciting, here's more. Again, this is a 19th century painting. Teenagers who laze around, eat too much, and sit in their bedrooms for hours or days, withdrawn and introvert, playing computer games, and interacting on social websites rather than mixing with actual human beings, are also a cause of concern. Nerds are not understood by many older people. And dressing up as maids to hand out flyers is an option not open to all. And the worry about aimless youth? Well, they probably could be worse, and have worse aims. Third and final issue, the work ethic is strong. Only the best is good enough. It is common in Japan to strive for total professionalism in whatever is done. Any task is taken seriously and is normally approached with careful dedication. Employees at all levels are expected to seek perfection, and the majority seem to try to do so. They work hard. The label workaholic has been applied to Japanese workers. In the culture, headbands might be worn to show dedication or determination. They are a sort of guarantee that the wearer will do their very best. Japanese characters meaning things like must win, fighting spirit, try hardest, or victory are commonly observed. The extreme care taken with details shows in beautiful Japanese flower arrangements. And in the impressive way that food is set out on a plate. And the extreme attention to detail also shows in the careful and often semi-mystical design of beautiful Japanese gardens. This dedicated approach in all fields results in the high quality achieved in many products, such as motor cars, electronic goods, cameras, and computer games. It was not by accident that for many years Japan stood in second place as the wealthiest economy in the entire world, behind the United States, before being pushed down into third place by China in the year 2010. But China has 1.3 billion people, and Japan less than 130 million, 1/10 the number. On a per-head basis, the Japanese are, of course, considerably richer. Still, being pushed out of second place, a sort of economic relegation, is perceived as a kind of failure. And, perhaps even worse, a nearby nation has managed to do it. This feels painful, as Japan has long been number one in the whole of Asia. Total dedication to work is regarded as normal. Large companies expect their workers to voluntarily give up their evenings or part of the weekend to work or to engage in work-related social activities. Unpaid overtime is very common. In addition, hardly any staff members seem to take all of their allotted annual holidays. This can have extremely bad effects on their health, and people can die from their job. There is a word, karoshi, that means sudden death from overwork. However, annual work hours are gradually decreasing, and a preference for more leisure time has recently begun to emerge. The government encourages this, as it believes that more leisure and holidays would increase consumer spending and help the lagging economy. And Japan does have some lovely holiday spots. It also seems to think that it might increase the birth rate, which is considered desirable, for Japan is aging at a worryingly rapid rate. That's enough for today. I am now working on part 3 in the series, so you might want to check back now and then to see if it is ready. If you would like to download a free article about Japanese culture, you can get it here, along with 11 other free articles. And now for a few acknowledgements. Thank you for watching.